Absolutely. You've just been to Israel, you've met with Benjamin Netanyahu, you've seen the attack site for yourself. Of course, there is growing concern about this wider war and where it ends up. Were you able to express your solidarity with Israel, but also did you have any concerns about the escalation or path on which Israel is on?
Well, Laura, Australians had a choice to make when we saw the 9/11 attacks in the United States. A couple of thousand people lost their lives, and the United States rightly went after a listed terrorist organisation, Al-Qaeda. When Israel was attacked by a listed terrorist organisation in Hamas, Hamas crossed the border, literally gunned down women, children. Still to this day, there are over 100 people who are held captive in tunnels. Hamas hide their guns, their bombs and their victims, their hostages within populations, at hospitals, around schools, within residential areas. That's exactly what we get from terrorist organisations. We saw the treatment of women by Al-Qaeda and they have no regard for human life whatsoever. Hamas has no regard for the life of Israelis, nor does it for the life of Palestinians. So I think this is a test for our country to stand up for our values. I think it's a test for the West. And I think when we see an ally under attack, like we saw in the case of 9/11 or like we saw on the 7th of October in Israel, it's our obligation to stand with somebody of shared values. And I certainly expressed those sentiments when I was in Israel.
How would your government be different to the Albanese government in terms of support for Israel?
Well, Laura, we would be like each of Anthony Albanese's predecessors, both Liberal and Labor, where there has been strong support for Israel for the reasons that I've just outlined, but for many more. We know that we've received intelligence from Israel that's thwarted terrorist attacks in our own country. I wouldn't allow. I have zero tolerance for the anti-Semitic conduct that we've seen in our country. The Prime Minister has allowed, through his passive approach and his weak approach, for the university campus demonstrations to continue on. So in my government, Israel would have a more reliable ally, the reliable ally that we were under Bob Hawke or Paul Keating or under Kevin Rudd or under John Howard or under Scott Morrison, Tony Abbott. That's the sort of ally that we would be. And the departure from that by this Prime Minister, I think, has jolted Israel, and I think it has jolted the Jewish community here in Australia. We're talking to people who survived the Holocaust, who've been here since 1945, and in 2024 feel unsafe in our country for the first time. And you need to ask yourself the question, why is that the case? And it's the case because of the way in which the Prime Minister has had this passive, almost accepting approach to the violence that we've seen and the continued prolonged demonstrations on university campuses, outside electorate offices and marches in the streets each weekend to this very day.